on this computer and it is recording. Okay. Hi, Randy. We were talking today already, and I thought as we were talking, wow, I bet you people would really like benefit from this conversation. I'm really curious, and so I asked quite a bit of like, I would say, although it's banking stuff, it's personal to you in the banking world. So
Yeah.
what I want to say to you is, I respect your boundaries. I'm just going to shoot from the hip. And if there's like something you don't want to answer because maybe that's not appropriate for you, just tell me, okay? And we'll stop that thread, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, there's really nothing I cannot generalize, okay? If I get a little too general, that'll mean that there's something there that like just names of people and stuff, and that really doesn't pertain to this anyway. Nobody can research them or anything anyway. So if a question comes, I'll just generalize it. It's all good. I got it.
Okay, so we were talking particularly about banking, and that's you and I don't talk about banking a lot. So this was pretty interesting to me. So it began with asking you, how did you come into the meeting Bauer and how did that all transpire? Because as most of you know, I think by now, or maybe not, Randy knew Bauer, who is a Rothschild, right?
Well, that's a Rothschild is more of a word than a name, and they'll kind of gather the banking families under that one umbrella because some of them, like Jacob and others, have chosen to use the name Rothschild or D. Rothschild, but in general, it's just they're they're under that umbrella. But there's like about 13 families, and then it kind of broadens out from there. There's lots of people that know this stuff, but not very many of us that know it.
Yeah. So the Bauer that you know, what is his first name? Can you say that?
Yeah, well, he's on the web. His name is Grantham Taylor Hughes. He's that's his kind of AKA, or Sri Kadaf G, I think is his AKA under the spiritual realms. He has a organization that he heads or leads called Akata, Akatha. So without a th, it's just Akata, Akatha. So you can find him there. He actually did a fairly recent video with his wife, kind of talking about their spiritual practice, and it's non-religious. It's just a following of people that believe in similar things, and very nice. I don't have anything really bad to say about the man, and you know, he just ran away from me. That's all.
Did he run away though with money that he owed you?
Not he didn't know it to me, but he had set up a deal that I believe closed, and then his words to me towards the end were, "You're being hazed." That was his language that he used, and he said, "If you don't shut up, they're never going to pay any attention to you because you can't. You have to, I guess you could say, follow the rules, And I'm like, well, fuck you then. I don't need the money, And that was pretty well the end of it. And I said I'll find somebody else that can do it now that I know the process. So it kind of ended our friendship, and we were very close for like 9-10 months, long 2-hour conversations where he shared things about his life on top of many other things, so, and the banking, of course.
So wait a
But
minute. He was mentoring you to become like a member of their banking family, so to speak.
well, in a way, like, they need outsiders too. They don't need them, but they can always use brokers, as I was put in the category of. And also, training to get involved in some of their family affairs. I mentioned to you earlier that he offered me a position on the board for his own private uh, institution, I'd call it. And it
Is
was
that
like
the ACTA thing you were just talking about?
no, this is separate. This was a physical entity that would have been, uh, like they were discussing mostly high technology stuff. Okay, so, and I caught on to it fairly quickly. It's not hydrogen or magnetic energy. It was what they call relostatics. And it's a different type of, I'm going to call it free energy, beyond the idea of, where we keep going back to Tesla programming or
Yeah.
the toroidal field, that kind of stuff, which is all good too. But his was a little different advancement and very advanced. And just because of our friendship, he has asked me if I'd sit in the seventh spot on his board of directors because he needed one more.
And he offered you money for that, didn't he?
Yeah, 50 million a year for just to sit on the board. And I said, well, what does that mean? He says, well, come to a few, conference call meetings, and we may meet over in Abu Dhabi once in a while. It's the site was just outside of Abu Dhabi in the desert. But basically just bring
Okay, hold on. And the trade for him, you told me, of having you on the board was that even though that's when you lost your money and you didn't have your money, you had a network of people that he found valuable. So he was kind of like pulling you in, offering you this and that because he wanted access to your network. And your
Yes.
network, let's talk about how we divided. You remember how you divided the funding? So there's asset backed, which is where you knew the people in the asset backed world. And he
Yes.
was on the other side with the funding or financing for globalist agenda, the New World Order agendas. He knew the people on that side.
Yes. And I mean, using the word globalist agenda at this point is true, but at the same time, I saw benevolence in him, knowing that he wanted to create money for non-globalist agenda projects like his own, right? So
But
there
he
was,
couldn't. He had a decision to make, you said. He had a
correct.
decision as to whether to stay with the family who was holding him back from doing that or to go his own way. And
Yes,
he has not gone his own way yet, right?
correct.
So what do you make of that?
Well, let me back it up a wee bit because there's a little more to the introduction story that I think people would be interested in.
Okay.
So he's a trust lawyer and the most highly intelligent IQ man that I've ever met. Like, no doubt, beyond the shadow of a doubt, he had the highest IQ I've ever seen or witnessed in a human being. And
Wait, I
there's
have
that
a
big dog.
question there.
Just hold on a second.
Okay.
Hi guys. I'm wonderful. How are you? It is. Thank you. Yeah, but it's still nice.
Oh, hello,
Yeah,
guys.
no doubt.
Hello, guys. Okay, listen.
Okay.
So that brings me to a question of, oh shit, I forgot my question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot the
Yeah, I
question.
think, and I got distracted by that beautiful big dog. I've seen him out here a few times and his dad or his owner. So anyway, the way we met originally was through his work in the common law pure trust. Now, the common law pure trust is how all the banking families and a lot of the so-called royals function, okay? Now, we're not just talking about the queen, who is actually a banking family puppet, and she really isn't the true queen. And Greg Hallett exposed all of that. She's just a cousin to Bauer, who got installed as the Queen of England, and she's Germanic, Prussian. She's not even, you can look at her and you can see it.
Someone said she was born to an affair between a maid and somebody else. Like
Yeah,
she's
probably.
basically a commoner.
Yeah. But, they installed her as the queen. And that's part of this whole long historic story. And just over the last couple 100 years, I'm not going to say it was extremely long, but a couple 100 years. But anyway, so he was the trust lawyer who revised this document, and it's about a 20-page document that spells out how to remove yourself from ownership in all ways. and just become a managing director of assets. And that's how they function, right? So they kind of move themselves away from the legal jurisdiction of ownership and the karmic, stuff that's involved in duality mentality, victim, perpetrator, good guy, bad guy, all that, by creating these trusts. And it's called a common law pure trust.
Amazing.
So yeah, so he's the revisionist. I mean, he's just extremely intelligent, and he revised the document. When I met him, some of these people that I knew were very intelligent and said, "Oh, he's not doing this right, Newston." I'm like, "Really? You think you're smarter than he is? Well, go your own way then." And I know a lot of people that have kind of revamped the common law pure trust and come up with their own ideas. And I don't discount anything like that. It's all creation. So do your own thing. But I just kind of stuck it out with him, and he appreciated that. So over time, he taught me a little bit more about that. And then he knew that I was involved with these Asian families, right? So a lot of it came from the work of Ferdinand Marcos, who moved some of these funds into the banks based on assays of gold that is, it's all over the place. Like there's so much gold that people are just, they can't even fathom the idea of how much there is. And some of it has been put with SKRs, so safekeeping receipts, or an assay, created an account in the banking system, right? But those accounts remain off ledger. Okay, so that this will be
They're
part
like
of the
hidden,
story.
hidden. Off ledger means not visible to the banking world. It's off over there. But
Right.
who keeps track of that off there? Does anybody?
Oh, well,
Or the
yeah.
owners? The owners
No,
of it.
the banking families. So there's two uh two realms of banking families in this. And there's the same families, sorry, but there's two realms. One is orthodox banking, which would be what we're used to seeing, but at the high levels, not retail. Okay. So when I
Okay.
say orthodox, I'm talking about JP Morgan Chase, Barclays Bank, those kind of
Yes.
functioning banks that are creating money. Don't get me wrong. So this is what it's about. We'll get to that.
They're
But
doing the fractional lending along with the retail banks.
and especially up at the upper levels. And I don't want to use the word money. It's all about credit. And correct me if I get there to the money thing, because it's just credit that they create. They like to use the word money, but they use it because it takes the energy, my own net energy yield, MONEY.
Yeah.
It takes that my own net energy yield to create the credit. So they'll use the word and the language money, but really it's only credit there, and there's no debt ever involved.
Right.
So when I go there, I know that's challenging for people. So please ask me some more questions at that stage, and then we'll move on again, Ida.
Okay, but I have like a question, two questions right now.
Okay.
One is, and we talked about this, which I find so interesting. These families, or the one that you talk to, are actually informed about karma and are concerned about karma, even though they're nasty ass, greedy people. They created common law trust so they wouldn't have to be responsible. And so they're greedy, and yet they believe in karma and are concerned about karma. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I can. I mean, and using the word greedy at this stage is a little bit judgmental. Like I wouldn't say that. I would say they're trying to manifest a system for mankind, because these people are very smart. They don't want the karma. You're right, and I'll talk about that in two different ways. But to say that they're greedy at that level they're devious or nasty or satanic or any of that kind of language, I don't agree with. I think that they have been trying for many, many years to figure out a way to move society and move civilization forward without the corruption that we see at these looniverse government
Are
levels,
you
right?
sure? You
I
told
am,
me that
yes.
power might be interested in that, but that is family, hierarchically, the generations were not interested in that. So when you're talking about that as their interest, you're not really talking about the generations. Maybe you're talking about the present generation that you know.
Could be, but also, the way that it's structured, it's pyramidal. So the top families of this 13 hold the most off ledger accounts. Okay, so that's where we get into the two, the orthodox and the non-orthodox or off ledger accounts. And the ones that hold those, it's a different structure once you get down into the orthodox. Like Barclays is way down on the orthodox banking side, but it's far above everyone else, and that is the Bauer family. Okay, that so. However, once I got involved with this man and became friends with him, he warned me a couple of times. He said, "You start dealing with those lower level families, Rockefellers, which is HSBC, which is where these Marcos funds are mostly stashed or in accounts, and Bilderbergs, which is the Bilderbergs are the ones who basically are the New World Order, right? They're the ones that select the presidents of the USA ever since Lyndon B. Johnson, the president after JFK. They shifted into saying, okay, we can't let this happen again, so we're just going to have to choose the president. We'll figure out a way. Dominion voting things or whatever the fuck they use, it doesn't matter. They can play so many games at that upper level because the veil is over them and nobody catches on to this stuff. And if I talk about it or someone else, well, fuck, he's so far out there, he's lost and all this. Well, no, you could listen to Kim Gagosian talk about fucking Galactic
Okay,
Federation of
okay,
Light.
let's go. Let's rein it in, Randy. So let me let me just say something that's really confusing. The way
Yes,
you describe these families, and let's say the way the citizen journalists and the things that they're talking about these families online are so different. They are looked upon as evil, performing satanic ritual abuses with children and drinking adrenochrome, and that they're reptilian. That's why the adrenochrome is, but all of us have reptilian brain, part of
that's
our
right. Of
brain, right?
course.
So is it just your belief, or is it what you experience? Because you were there 9 months being mentored. So can you really say if you saw any shit like that happening anyway?
Not a bit. And I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I believe it's all down in lower levels, government and below. Any of the greedy people in the pharmaceutical industry and everything else, that's even below the fucking government, like,
Okay, but they're the people at the top of the pyramid that you're talking about.
yeah,
And doesn't ritual and power trickle down from the top?
no, hell no.
So are you
That's
saying the top operates on its own accord without what's the word I want to use? Without ordering or instructing who's ever whatever layer is below them.
correct. And
So
they
they
can't
just
police them.
operate in their own world.
Yeah. And they put the system together, including the World Bank, Federal Reserve central bank system, which is to monitor the flow. That's basically what it does. They can talk about fucking interest rates and all that bullshit all they want, or economics and inflation. It's just fucking indoctrination to keep the people who are educated busy, but it's way simpler than that. It's just simply to monitor the flow of unlimited assets, whether that be off ledger asset backed or the credit creation aspect, which both are unlimited.
But
And
is it true that the purpose for them up there, how they operate up there, is to keep their own pockets lined? So the
no,
interest, you don't believe that?
what would they need? Why would they need that kind of money? Who can spend more than, you know, a couple $1,000s a day? Like, who could spend that kind of money? You know, like, they don't need money. They set up a system to try and guide humanity. But the system has to have everybody working together. And at the government level, uh, I'll use the
That's
word
where the
government just so.
corruption is, the bankers and
Oh,
and so you don't see them as corrupt. But
well, listen, you know, I wouldn't say I don't see them as corrupt. They there's some of them that are open to creation and that are open to new ideas, and some that aren't. Okay, so that's the way I'd put it, rather than
okay,
to
so
say
the
they're
ones
corrupt.
that aren't, what are they interested in?
Their own lives, maybe, you know, like just their own, because they're just people like us, you know. They're
Lining their own pockets. So the thing that I
Nah,
said,
no, I don't think so. Like, they're not interested in lining their own pockets. They're probably interested in continuing to show the world that they were right, that we need some kind of guidance, but they couldn't police. And that was words he used with me many times. They just couldn't police these fucking governments and the people themselves below the governments with these corporations. And when I say government, it is a corporation. They're all just corporations, right? So it's that, you know, getting it down to these guys and saying, here's a good structure. Okay, we can create all the credit we need to feed every human on earth. You just put the social programs together, get them all organized, and do your thing. Well, what fucking government has done that on this
okay,
earth?
so
None.
then why wasn't his family interested then in that exact thing? So they are not as benevolent as you are portraying them to be, because he tried, and they said, no, you have a choice. You stay with us and do whatever shit we're doing for our own selves, or out of the family you go right ahead and do your saving of humanity and rescuing and doing whatever, but you're out of here if you do that.
Oh, I wouldn't say I said that. I think he had a project that they didn't support, but that's all it was about. It wasn't about him saving the world with his project. It was a technology institute that would have changed the way that we're flapping around these fucking noisy tires and exploding fossil fuels. So they're uh, they just didn't have a method to support him, to support that thing, because it would have taken government changes. It would have taken, you know, a mindset changes that's happening now. Ida, don't get me
I
wrong.
know, that's what I was going to say. It's happening
And
now regardless of what the family.
so since I knew him 2 years ago, he may be actually moving a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he's got some support now. I don't know that. But I know his technology had the potential to get us out of this ridiculous notions that we have on Earth as far as technology.
And you didn't want to do a technology program because you said you were offered that, but you didn't want that.
No, I just said, you know, as long as you know where my heart lies, and that is in the food industry and getting the chemicals and the metals out of our food supply and getting back to natural choices, then we can work together. I said, but I'm going to have to be more than just a broker. I need to fucking start to receive some mega bucks. And that's where I said, you know, I'm going to continue to deal with these other guys too, because I've got some of them saying, yes, that's a good idea,
That's the
from the asset
people
back.
that the other people you're talking about are the other side of the banking. What did the
Asset back.
yeah, asset backed. Yeah. So, um, we also talked about, I asked you, do you think he could sabotage you or blacklist you in different areas because of the connections he has at the level you're at? And what
Okay.
did you say?
Well, I think I said, and I'm probably going to say the same thing, is that it wasn't really him. It was the bankers that he had set me up with that had the potential to do that, and still do, because it's a very small group that reaches out to brokers. So where we're talking about here is the credit creation scheme of a my own net energy yield, authentic, autographed instrument, or message that becomes an instrument. Okay, so it's just a message to start with. There's nothing but when it moves from one bank to the other, it becomes a standalone credit instrument. Okay,
So the
and from
message
there,
is, I need money. What's the message?
the
I
message is
need 200 million for this project. That
correct.
goes to the bank and
And
they
then
get
they
one
just
signature from one bank, then they pass it to another bank, and then that's signed, and then that's when it's deemed, okay, here's the 200 million.
yeah, and it's not money, it's just credit.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and then that's when, if this corporation that they've just, you know, said we're going to create this credit for you, abides by the globalist agenda. See, now you're getting down into just above government, right? So
Okay.
this is where these hairy canary people, the Rockefellers and the fucking, you know, Bill Gates and that crew, they all operate, right? And it's above government, but it's below the um
The
you know,
Bilderbergs.
it's at about that level. It'll be
Okay.
below Bilderberg's, but it's above government. So these characters then are where the globalist agenda fits in, right? And if you qualify, then okay, you get this. And Donald Trump is one of those. He
Yeah.
qualified. You want to
Yeah.
build some towers around the world? Fuck yeah, here you go. He never paid any interest. He never paid anything but some administration fees to get this credit. Now,
And yeah. And
that
property
being said,
taxes, but not income tax.
correct. And they can get enough money out of you know, people they lease out space to pay some property tax just to keep it all kind of in line with that stupid looniverse legal jurisdiction. But
Yeah.
what I want to defend is my saying that Trump falls into that category. Yes, I don't have any doubt in my mind. Has he tried to redeem himself in a spiritual and a mental manner to come into this for the people? I believe that that potential is there. And he chose to work for somebody that said enough of this globalist agenda. So you see what I mean? Like I don't want to come across as a hater. I don't hate Trump. I don't, but I know he had to either do this, and he's just a front man anyway, no matter how you look at it. He's not the leader. He
So
is the
he's
front
not
man.
the leader. So who behind is him is the military.
That's what I would say. And you see, because of another structure that we didn't really get into, but I'll speak to that now, I think, because this is important at this stage, is platform trading. Okay.
Oh yeah, we talked a bit about that.
So when asset backed account holders have large influx of capital, whether they bring in gold backed SKRs, safekeeping receipts, or assays, and say, I've got this much gold, I want a line of credit based on that gold. So they bring it into the credit system. Then
So
it
you mean it
stays.
was off ledger before? So even in the asset backed, it's off ledger. They say, I'm going to bring some on now because I want some credit for this asset backed thing I have.
But first they have to bring it from completely out in the, you know, nature to off ledger, you see, if it's gold back.
Oh,
Or
yes. Oh, okay. First oh, okay. There's even one more step.
that's right. And if it's oil, for instance, same thing. You know, you're when you people just can't do the math on like millions of barrels of $100 oil or $40 oil, whatever you want to call it, and then say, you mean one company has that kind of money? Impossible. That would change the economy of nations, let alone the world, if you did the math on that kind of stuff. So that asset backed funding stays off ledger as well. So where does all of that off ledger go? It goes to what we call platforms, okay? Trading platforms. So
Wow.
now the
Yeah.
best way to explain those is to think about, you know, our financial system down in the lower levels of legal, what we call the stock market or mutual funds, right?
Yeah.
So people put their money, their, you know, their asset backed money where they earned it supposedly from wherever the fuck they earned it. If they, you know, most of it is
The
exploiting other
sea.
humans. Yeah. Because, you know, no corporation and no capitalist structure on earth earns it because of their hands. It's somebody else's hands that does it for them, you know? So it's just whatever. So they have these assets. So
Mm.
they put them into, or they got it handed down to them in inheritance or whatever, you know? So then they put that into the stock market. The stock market, they gamble that they're going to hit that rate, you know? So now, if you're a big, big guy with the big accounts, right? The trillions of dollars, which is what it is. Bill Gates is way down in the, they're fucking peanut salesmen. So when you got that big accounts, whether it's oil and gas or the ancient funds, there may be a few other accounts that have gotten that large, but very few. We're way above Microsoft and, you know, Google and that fucking shit. That's all still way down there in value compared to oil and gas at very least. And then compared to the gold-backed assets, it's not even fucking close. It's all
Can you
like
say,
layered.
when you say accounts on this off ledger, the treasures, the oil, how many accounts are we talking about? So if there's one person, wait a minute, if there's one person and he owns, let's say, the treasures of Magellan or something, does he have one account for all those treasures, or are there several for one person?
That's hard to say. I mean,
Okay, so we don't know that. But okay,
no.
so like how many accounts then, if we're just saying one per person, are there like off ledger, just to get an idea of like what are we looking at here? I mean,
Well, I would say at least thousands of accounts, and the value of them in Barclays alone, this is going to blow your mind, but I believe this when I heard this, 10, 10 to the 33rd power. So 33 zeros behind the number.
yeah.
That's the value
And there's
of these.
thousands.
Yeah. Well, no, that would be, that would include lots of different accounts. That's
Okay.
Barclays Bank off ledger holds that much value in asset backed accounts
Okay.
and credit accounts. Don't get me wrong, because the credit accounts can amount to a lot
So
too.
why do we need to keep creating credit if it's already, if we already have all of this?
Well, because that's where we get down to the lower level again and say that either the World Bank central bank system, which is a corporate government entity,
Yeah.
or the governments themselves, which are corporate government entities, are not getting things figured out. So they have to just keep creating to try and get things figured out. But what they do is that's where the greed comes in and say, well, we'll do it, you know, for our buddies like Walmart and Amazon and Bill Gates and, you know, you name it. And they build towers and shit like that when they could be using that money for social programs, which is why I'm here. And that is to say, it's unlimited. There's no such thing as debt. My God, start off this whole process with a comfort income, not basic, because basic means limited,
Yeah.
comfort income for every human being, and then go play your games. At least get people comfortable. We don't have to fuck around with this fianchetto idea and killing them off and stuff like that. Just get them comfortable and get them, and in that comfort, they're going to educate themselves to population control, and as far as, you know, having 6 babies versus
Yes,
2
because
and things like that.
once they're not stressed out about having to earn a living and make ends meet, they're going to have so much space within them that curiosity can start to happen. They can start to research. They can start even looking inward instead of outward. I mean, so many things could happen if they weren't enslaved by that mentality of stress.
Totally, Ida. And I mean, just think of this, like the social programs are designed to give, you know, a basic family allowance. A lot of people depend on that and they fucking survive off of it, a lot of them, you know, like
Yeah.
single moms and stuff like that. If they didn't get that, they'd be screwed. So you know, they'll have an extra kid. Like, what the fuck? It's going backwards then, you know. And in
Yes.
and in countries like Africa, they don't think that way, but there are benefits when they have a child. So, well, I see a benefit in that. Or, you know, if I got another guy contributing, I'll have another kid. I don't know where that mentality comes from, but it's very basic and it's very,
Well,
you know,
listen, in Africa, because they don't have the social structure and resources like we've created in our systems,
yeah,
I think that they've turned to each other to formulate communities, to
yeah,
support each other in their endeavors of like building, families. Like they can, in Africa, it takes a village, they say, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's how they've coped and how they designed their system because of corruption that they knew of with Governmind and all of that, right?
yeah. And I mean, you see it even in our culture, like what we call Hutterite colonies, right? So they build these communities, and it's based on having children to expand the colony to the next, build it bigger and stuff like that. They're little capitalists, is what they are, but they use that whole idea of population to expand their little empires, right? So yeah, it's a kind of a human condition that we have to be responsible for. But I guess what I'm saying is it's down at that government level where they can't figure out how simple it would be to just
Where did
sorry,
you go? Oh, there you go. Okay.
I gotta plug my phone in. It gives me
Oh,
the warning. But I got an extra battery with me, so
you
don't worry.
didn't see the video I sent you with not charging your phone and talking on it at the same time?
Yeah, I don't watch too much stuff like that.
You told me you watch what I send you.
Whoops. Oh, for we gotta share why I have a purple thing on, but we'll do that later. Don't forget.
Oh,
Yeah.
my mind doesn't work very well
Well,
to
should we do it
remember
now
things.
then? We'll have an intermission and I'll
Oh,
tell a story.
okay.
Okay, this
Um,
is it.
I'm
It's
looking at our
intermission
time.
time, folks.
So
Well, I got an extra battery.
we've been talking about 40 minutes already. Isn't that amazing?
Perfect. So we'll have an 80-minute call and we'll have an intermission now. So do you want to sing a little song? Do 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 like intermission music?
Okay, I'll
Or
do. Okay.
yeah.
No, you go ahead. That's my duck call. That's my duck
Okay.
call. Listen to my duck call. That's
I
my
hope that's I hope that's not what things sounded like the last few days. And I know I'm not
no,
going to take it
no,
any
not like
further than
that at
that.
all. Okay. Okay, go for your
I love
scar
you, Ida.
story. I know, I love you too.
Okay.
Now go for your
So
scar story.
so my story is that yesterday I got banned from YouTube with one video, and I've challenged it because they didn't have a good enough excuse, and they give you a reason to go in there and say, look, you can appeal this decision, but they banned me because I was down checking out this immunization station. But what happened there was that they wanted my name, and I'm like, look, you guys are, I didn't say this, but security and police and stuff, they're a little fucking volatile. Like, I don't know, so I didn't want to give them my name because you never know. Like, they might just arrest you for something that's not even real. But
Yeah, exactly.
so, but I did say, or she said, well, I'm taking your picture. And I said, okay, fine. And I smiled and I stood a little closer. I thought, you can have my picture if you want. And I had my red bandana on yesterday, or my neck warmer. And then I woke up this morning and I thought, it's a lot warmer today. And that red thing is kind of warm. So I'm going to start wearing purple. So if the police ever are driving down the street, going to, retroactively charge me with trespassing, which was what she said they were going to charge me with, which I don't think would stand. But anyway, I thought, oh, I'll switch to a purple neck warmer today. And then if the police do stop, they'll say, oh, that's not him.
No, make sure you pull it up so they can't see you.
Yeah, right. I could do the
Yes,
bandit thing.
yes, because you know what, Randy,
Brilliant.
I'm sorry to tell you, but your cowboy hat is going to give you away.
Yeah, no, I haven't
No
seen another
matter
one
what
in Calgary.
bandana you wear.
I mean, how ridiculous. This is Cowtown. We used to have the biggest stampede on earth. And I'm the only one that I ever seen wearing a white fucking cowboy hat in Calgary. Although they're not really winter hats, they're straw hats. So, but whatever.
I
Anyway,
don't
that's the
know.
end of our intermission interlude.
Okay.
If we want to get back to our
So
regular
so we're
programming.
back to the banking stuff. and bow and your friendship. So you were mentored, really. You were being mentored into the the
No, not
evil,
evil. Don't do that. You can't even get close and say evil like that. That's illegal.
evil. Okay,
The intermission's over. Smarten up.
okay, all right. So yeah, it's hard to wrap. You sent me the video with the Bowers talking spiritually,
Oh
and
yeah.
so do you know their spiritual beliefs then, having hung out with them?
Oh yeah.
And
I
how
mean,
far off is it? Like, what can you say about that belief system?
it was lovely. Like, I can't really run it down. I thought they had some good ideas. The only thing that kind of pissed me off was that they'd bring in, because they don't have very many followers, and they'd bring in someone he knew, and they used to talk about Christ consciousness in that, what do you call that, Hawkins, um, uh,
Oh,
the
the vibration energy thing, where
yeah,
you've got all the characteristics and what they vibe at or what their frequency is at. That's the David Hawkins vibrational scale. I don't know.
and some people will use that to categorize Jesus Christ and put him in there somewhere, and it might be a little different scale, but I think it's along those lines. And one time they brought in this new lady. I used to participate each morning until they changed the fucking phone number and booted me out. I couldn't believe it. Like, to get rid of me, they had to change the phone number. So
You mean you
but
called in and listened?
yeah, and talked. Like, we visited I think it was Sunday mornings, but it was really early. And I did that for a few months. But I'd question every once in a while, and he didn't like that. And the one question I had was, well, how can you say that someone that just believes in your story that quickly has vaulted above the level of Jesus Christ? Like, I like Jesus Christ. I think that Christ conscious, compassionate level is something that I patterned myself after, that pattern man. And whether he was a man or it's just a story, I don't give a shit. Like, to me, it's about compassion, it's about natural healing, it's about love, it's about coming back to life, rebirth, whatever you want to call what we do when we fucking wake up finally,
Yeah.
things like that. So that kind of ticked me off. But other than that, it was okay. But it also kind of twisted in a little bit of stories that about, you know, spaceships and things like that I don't
Oh, the
adhere too
alien
much
thing.
either.
You don't like the alien thing.
I
Okay,
don't see any
can
use
I
for it.
ask you something? You said it was a small group, so I imagine that to be only select people that run in those circles up there.
No, this was for common folk like myself. This wasn't, he
But wait
didn't,
a minute, you were running around with them up there too at that time.
just him,
Yeah, but
only with,
that's
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was people that adhered to his stories and his political views and stuff. There's no doubt, but they didn't come from the inner core. They were coming from the outer, like I did. Like they
okay.
came to him from his exposure on the web, and then we'd.
How many people do you think come from outside that they let in like that?
Not very many.
I know, honey. So there was something big that you had to offer that did you know going in that there was like that exchange, like that he was expecting something of you, like your network? And did you
Well,
know
possibly.
that?
Yeah, I think so. Like, the network was pretty obvious because he never treated me as well as when he first knew me and knew that I had that network. However, our friendship blossomed to a place where he saw the compassion in me for humanity that he didn't quite have. And he liked that. And he there was a lot of other things that he liked. Like, we have very common interests in technology and even in, like, beyond his stories going into, the outer space thing. Up to that point, the whole idea that the earth is not a spinning ball flying through space. We were common interest there. I had that belief before I met him. You know, I don't know exactly what that is, Ida, but I just know we don't live on a fucking round ball flying
I
through
know.
space. That's all I.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then the next question or comment I want to make is, let's make sure we let everybody know. It's getting dark here, isn't it? You can still see me though, right?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Okay, so let's let everybody know that the reason on that side, so there's the asset-backed funding side, which you're working in right now. You
Yeah.
haven't eliminated or excluded the other side. What do you call the other side where Bauer is? What do you call that?
Credit creation is probably the
Credit
best.
creation. Okay. So on that side, you haven't left. You're still, if something comes through there, you would welcome it, right? But
Why
right
not?
now, you're kind of more working on the asset back side. So let's tell people what the requirement was of your project to get funding from the credit creation side, and then what the project has to look like for the asset back side. Are there any eligibility requirements?
Credit creation side is pretty much follow the globalist agenda.
So people, did you hear that? Randy wasn't willing to follow the globalist agenda, so they wouldn't fund his project. They would throw stuff at him like, oh, Randy, do you want to do technology? And Randy's like, no, I still
Or
want to do my socially, what's the word I'm looking for? My
conscious.
socially, what's the word I keep forgetting?
Con-
Philanthropic kind of
okay.
project. So then you said, okay, then I'll go to the asset back side and see what they have to say. And what
Yeah.
are they saying? Does it matter if you follow the globalist agenda over there?
Nope.
No.
That's what's so beautiful about it. They've still got technology in the forefront. I'm going to say that. The other companies that are like ours that are reaching that level, not very many of them are like me. However, the guy that I'm dealing with is he's originally from the Middle East, but he lives in America, and he's kind of got that hillbilly attitude like me about food and stuff, and he just loved it the minute we started talking. So I
He's
wouldn't
a
say that
spiritual man, right?
he very much so, and he's got no problem with everyday Randy coming at him and saying, "It's all good, brother. We're gonna do this." And the other guys were like, "Get rid of that fucking guy. Like he's just pestering us, you know." But but what I wanted to say was that on the credit creation side, they didn't say no. He was actually pondering himself, doing some kind of funding slash finance with me on a project, but they were willing to say, you know, you make money from the credit creation game and you can do whatever the hell you want with that. Doesn't matter, you know, like it's like they kind of knew that I'd never get beyond the fucking, you know, Whole Foods markets or something like that. Or in Canada, we've got, you know, little things like that too. To get up to the size of any superstore or Walmart or anything, like whatever, just let them go
Wait a
play a
minute,
game.
I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that the dude you're working with on the asset back side also was working on the credit creation side too and said that he could help you?
No, I didn't say that, but he did. He is involved in that too. I mean, you
He's
can't
on the
not.
credit creation side too.
Well, you can't not be. You know, like once you
Ah,
get to that level, because of the way it's set up, and it moved to credit creation almost completely in the 70s when the governments went away, these government corporations went away from any kind of asset-backed funding to strictly creation, then anybody with money at that level had to play in that realm a little bit, you know,
what
otherwise they
happened
would.
in the 70s that happened? So before the 70s, were there both sides? There was the credit creation and the asset backed. What
Yes,
happened in the 70s?
they just said we don't need it anymore. We can do everything we want with the credit creation
We can
side. We
keep,
can,
yeah, we can
it's
create as
unlimited.
much as we want.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's when they kind of moved that globalist agenda, and we're talking governments now and Bilderbergs that made that decision, not the upper families. These are the fucking Bilderbergs and the governments that made that decision to go away from any asset backed funding unless it came through from the trades, from that mutual fund, like I was talking about, those
Yeah.
accounts, through to a project that was okayed by the central banks, which is the Dildobergs and the governments, so those two corporate
Wow.
entities.
What did the families think about that? If
I
they
don't
if
think,
they saw it happening,
I don't know. I didn't know them then or know what
Yeah.
they were thinking, but I know that they're disappointed because
Yeah.
Bauer said, like we couldn't police them. That's disappointment in my mind. I think that they were disappointed that their plan to, create as much credit as the world needed to look after everybody and to move society forward was there. They used to
If
talk in
that
terms
was
of,
their goal,
yeah,
has it never happened? Why has it never happened if that's been their goal for generations?
because of the Dildoberg
Because
central bank
whoever's
world.
below them is running around corrupting everything and whatever. They've taken what systems these families built and are using them for their own. They hijacked them or hacked them or whatever you want to say, right?
Yeah, and hack them because they knew they could manipulate the masses, right? It was so easy to manipulate the masses in that legal jurisdiction, that government level corporate entity, that they just started. That's the people who are laughing at us. That's the ones that colluded. That's the ones that fucked us all over. And
Hold it. So they're the ones who took that system of creating credit, like the Bilderbergs and the Government, and have made it all to their own gain and benefit, withholding it from humanity. So it's not
and
the families, but the families have all the power and the money. So how can they let these people get away with this?
who has the power when it comes to fear? What is the ultimate? You can take away my money, you can take away my beliefs, but you cut my head off and I'm fucked, right? So who has the power? Who has the military? The governments, right? But that's where the switch started to happen, Ida, was when these militaries of the world started saying to each other, look at, I've had enough. How about you? Like Putin, I think, was the beginning of that. And from there, um, it just started to expand. When they were in Iraq, it was so obvious that it was just an oil takeover. It had nothing to do with fucking
And
Saddam Hussein.
Afghanistan, the opium.
Yeah, and then Libya, like my God, that was the last straw for me, and it should have been for anybody in the military who had a fucking brain in his head. We're going to blow up these aquifers that have potential to feed all of Africa if they water the desert with them. Really? You want me to do that? They did it, but how bloody stupid is that? How fucking insane is it to order your military to blow up aquifers that are pumping out of the primal water, not just underwater? This is primal water which exists that nobody
This was
really
what's
knows
his
about.
name? His that came up with that. What I forget his name.
Gaddafi.
Yes.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, and then to take him out the way they did, and then Hillary dumping those guys in Benghazi, that whole affair to me was the last straw. And if it wasn't, then I'm off base as far as military. But
So
just
do you
remember,
think, sorry, do you think it's about, like, you know how they said it's run by a death cult? They like to see humanity dead or kill us or poison us. Do you think it was about killing? Like they wanted to depopulate, they wanted to kill, that's what war is it's about funding the pockets of whoever's declaring the war, because they go there and they wreck everything, then they get the money to rebuild it, and it's all a racket, right? But the part of it is humanity is dying. That's a big
well,
part of it.
yeah, and I'd say again, like we're talking about karmic activity again, and some governments of the world, I'll use the word government just so people are clear what I'm trying to say here. Some are slightly more uh I don't want to say benevolent, but slightly more
Altruistic.
conscious. Yeah, or conscious than others. Like some I don't give a fuck about karma. I'm going to cut the heads off of these people if they don't do what I'm saying. And, machetes come out, but in America, it's more of a, well, we got to control the population. So we'll put some heavy metals into them so they don't grow too old. And they're just useless eaters once they
No,
get
it's
past.
also sending them to war to get killed.
Exactly. So there's lots of different aspects of how governments want to control the population. And as we were saying this morning, Ida, the alternative media is let go because they're monitored just like the mainstream media, and it's let go whenever we can pump some fear and anger into people's minds versus saying to ourselves, okay, this is the way it was. How can we ascend this on a conscious level, a loving level, knowing that it's polar, not bipolar legal jurisdiction, that it's a polar jurisdiction of love, and that I must forgive myself and somehow forgive them, as nasty as what they've done, and get them out of the way so that we can move forward in a conscious manner from a polar standpoint of love for all. And that's the standpoint that our group is taking. When I say that, I'm talking about my company with our nonprofit organization and our common law pure trust, as well as the people we've attached to at the asset backed level, which there's lots of them who have been held back for years since the 70s, not allowed to bring that money back peer to peer to organizations like ours, because these government minds and the central bank, Federal Reserve, World Bank system, which is also a government mind, world government mind, has not allowed it and only diverted it to certain areas.
Can you tell them how many projects, or is that not allowed? How many projects there are underneath this man that you are working with? How many projects he has under the asset-backed side?
So there's just with our one little group, which is one account holder, and it's not gold, it's oil and gas that's off ledger and blocked in the banks, right? But the amounts are magnanimous. Like they're again, makes Bill Gates and fucking those big names that they want to brag about in the looniverse about something big. We're talking trillions, not billions of dollars. So that one entity has 69 groups like ours that are ready. Some of us have, and don't get me wrong, there's still some money involved here, okay? It's a very small amount, but there's still administration fees to move people around because it costs money to fly, it costs money to rent a hotel. So our little group has paid our small amount, and it's a very small amount, to be honest. But we are one of the 69 that's paid our fee, if you want to call it that,
and ready to roll once the funding comes out.
All of the structure is built with the nonprofit. All of our plans, our project is in place. Most of it's still in here because no use building a business plan when you don't need it. Like business plans are for bankers to mull over and decide whether that fits the globalist agenda. That's all the fucking business plan is about. Excuse my language, but
no, that's okay. I'm turning on the light. I want to ask you something.
Whoa! The light, turn on the light.
Don't turn on the light. Oh, okay. So you didn't see anything there, did you, when I moved back? I hope not. Okay.
I looked up there. I didn't.
Okay. All right. So what I want to say then, could any of us become trust holders like you are?
Yeah. And that's what it'll turn into, like there's, like I said, I'm talking about one account holder with this many accounts that once we start to move, I'll kind of take into that position of funding projects. Okay, so either you can go there, or if you want to try to attach to another one of these account holders, there's going to be lots of them that'll expose themselves in the next few years. Like they'll just outright be inviting people. And whether you want to believe that or not, and all of that is way above government level. Like you can't include the two, the USN backed by gold is still at the government level. And that's still going to only be there for social programs and to look after the people on that, in that kind of
That's mind
mindset.
blowing. That's
It is.
mind blowing. Um, because we've always been programmed to treat social projects as necessary, but they're over there once we spend our money on everything else in the system. You know, so we've not prioritized them as a necessary means for humanity. We've kind of made them, once everything else is taken care of, then we'll look at social programs, right?
But it's all at that government level. That's why. So, you know, you use the word entrepreneur or philanthropist. Well, we
Yeah.
added those two together and we came up with a word called philanthropreneurs. And where I stick in is that food and basic needs, water kind of a mentality, right? Which could look after the basic needs of people. If these fucking governments don't get their shit together and do something, then they won't have anything to do, okay? Because we'll look after the people. And then what's your job? What's your job, Trudeau, after that? If the people in the social programs know you're not going to make laws and stuff anymore, that's just so ridiculous that it's not even funny. So you're out of that area. You don't need to build roads. I'll build the fucking roads myself with our money, with our group, whatever. So where do you fit in? Do you want something to do? You can look after the administration of social programs and comfort income for the humans. That's all you get. If you want something else, here's what my answer, okay? You don't get anything else because you proved over the last fucking 100 years that you can't do anything. You're useless when it comes to fucking social programs. So fuck off, government. You're out of the picture from now on.
Okay.
Once this starts, that's where you go. You go to fucking hell, unless you want to administer processes to give the human beings comfort, income, and social programs for disabilities and things like that. That's all you get.
I
There's a
hope
little
we
ranty
keep
for
them.
you.
I hope we keep them all accountable, right? That's what
Oh,
my
you
hope is.
betcha.
The
And if
so can I ask you then, because I've been thinking about this.
yeah,
What about this generation of children that are being exposed to all these wackadoodle legal jurisdiction rituals and enslavement? How are we going to integrate them into this new world? Because I feel like they're going to be the ones that we're going to need to build the roads and to do all this and get used to, like, they're so going to be so much more indoctrinated. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So how are we going to, what are we going to do with this generation of children?
well, I think we're getting close to the end, and that's a whole different topic. But let's touch it a bit before we shut it off, because we're probably getting close to 80 minutes. But you know, the way I see it is that we take responsibility for those children, you know, as the ones that are going to create the projects and stuff like that. Like projects will be more community based, whether that be within the cities or new projects starting outside of the cities. I'm not saying we just get fearful and say the cities are just screwed and we can't do anything with them. Of course we can. We can get community projects started as grown conscious adults, start growing more gardens in the communities, that kind of stuff.
Inside all those damn buildings that are vacant.
Exactly. And, you know, take responsibility for those children and say to them, no, honey, you know, the video games can come later. We're going to go as a family down to the garden and we're going to pick some weeds today, just like our parents told us and shared with us. You know, we'll get back a little bit, you know, in that world to where it was, which isn't a bad thing. You can't
No,
say
but
that
the
it is.
deprogramming, okay. The reason I brought this up is because we can see in our own generations that are right now allowing and permitting all of this programming of the children and their minds. We can see that, like, we've shown them stuff. We've said, here's the research, and the programming is so huge that they can't I don't know what's going to wake them up, right? And they're the ones responsible right now for those children. And that's why I'm saying I'm not sure. Like, there's going to be a whole deprogramming that's going to happen first before the integration and participation. So it could be years
Yeah.
before they become able or have the capacity to actually participate in a meaningful way. First, their parents have to be deprogrammed, then they have to be deprogrammed. This is like hell, man.
Well, it's going to take some time, and we are going to continue to see people commit suicide, you know, with their health, with their diets, and they're going to continue to do that kind of stuff. So it's going to take some time to go through the process, but the shift has happened, and it ain't going back. We're there now, Ida, and the people I work with in our little Dow Eternally group, we know that this has already happened, that we've already made that shift, and we just have to now keep acting every day, keep our frequency high, keep our positive energy, keep our certainty, keep our knowing, keep all of those things, and just slowly but surely eliminate any doubts that we have ourselves. And then people will continue to follow, because people are going to follow us. It's not, they're following a government because they trust them. Once they realize that they can trust someone else that's going to actually help them with their social program and their comfort income, or their even just their wages, for Christ's sake, treat them respectfully, and not, you know, always have this hierarchy, this corporate agenda of, well, I'm your boss, that's why I drive a fucking Maserati. If the boss is just there working with them, and yes, going on a trip to organize things and stuff like that, yes, but you know, I don't fucking want 6 cars. I want, if I have one, it's going to be a lease unit. And if we get more people thinking that way at the levels of the leadership, it won't take as long, you know, because it is programming, and it is, you know, me first kind of stuff. But I think there's more than enough of us out there already to get this kicked into the next level, Ida. I really
I
do.
I know you do. And I keep seeing, well, see, because we're still in this 3D, I mean, we live in a 3D construct all around us, right? It's
Yep.
almost like what the Bible said about Christians. You have to live on this earth, but not be of this earth. That's kind of like how it feels. Yes, 3D is all around, but I'm living somewhere else, and soon this 3D is going to reflect where I'm living, which is up here. Is
When I
that
talk
about
to,
right? Okay, so
oh
this
yeah,
so this brings what we were also talking about, which I needed a concrete visual for this whole, because sometimes I'm in spiritual talk with people and I just think, oh fuck, it's all about bypassing. It's like, let's get holy, let's get whatever. And then somebody the other day said, okay, so our bodies have been sprayed with these dusts and these nanoparticles and you know, the chemtrails and the fluoride and all that shit. So basically our bodies hold elements in it already that are not organic, right? That we've
yep,
been poisoned into. So somebody said the nanobots that come in with that smart dust and all that shit actually have little claws that inside of us attached to the organs or attached to the bloodstream or attached to the lymph node. And they are fed by our states of fear and anything negative that feeds these little bots, and so they stay clung to you the more you are in fear and the more you are in negative thinking or whatever
yep,
feeling. So
perfect.
the way that they actually become unhinged from you is the higher vibration that you are. They can't feed off of your high vibration. They can only feed off fear and the negative vibrations, the 3D ones. So in order to get rid of them out of your body, you have to be in a higher vibration, in a higher state, because they can't feed off that and they'll just end up letting go and coming out of your body. And I thought, wow, that makes sense to me. That's not just some airy fairy spiritual talk. They actually gave me a visual that I could attach to that. And I could say, so do I want nanobots living inside of me attached to me? Or do I want to flush them the hell out with my high vibes?
Beautiful.
'Cause
And you
I,
know, that's what
yeah,
it's
sorry.
about, Ida, is our own personal perception of it being God, being love, being imagination, being consciousness, whatever you want to call it, but being something. And our perception of that being is what is so individual. But and why I like and I want to give you a minute here if you have something else, and then I'm going to end it with a little prayer, because I think that's where
Oh,
it's
cool.
decent, and where my mind goes is to bring it down to that simplicity of a subconscious reset that I did for myself by repetitively thinking and saying these same words, right? Which,
Mm.
is good for people. So your nanobot story, repeat it, keep thinking it and saying it in your mind, and you'll create your own rendition of what is going on. And that is a conscious ascension of the human race anchored by you. you know, take responsibility for it. I like to.
Okay. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Okay. Well, I want to say that little prayer because it's Sunday, and I'm out here in the trees where I like to pray and do that kind of stuff. So if you don't mind, it'll only take a couple minutes,
No, I like this prayer.
and then we'll just stop it there, eh? Oh, conscious breather of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of my being and carve out a space within me where presence can abide. Fill me with creativity so that I may be empowered to bear the fruit of our mission. Let each of my actions bear fruit in accordance with our desire of abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria for all. Endow me with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. And thank you for untangling the last thread of destiny that bound me as I release others from the entanglement of past mistakes. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. My pleasure. Do not let me be seduced by that which would divert me from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For we are the ground and the fruitful vision, the birth, power, and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made whole once again. Thank you, Ida. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you. Bye
Catch you
for
later.
now.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye.